Now, the latest from ITV News in the West Country with Jonty and Eli-Louise Wringe.
Hello and welcome to Monday's programme.
Coming up tonight between now and 6:30. MPs across the region say their constituents will remain at the heart of their work despite the death of Sir David Amess.
Doing surgeries has got to be done, I think, slightly differently, with a little bit more thought about personal security, but we must not pull up the drawbridge, and pull up the drawbridge we will not.
Also on the programme, we're at the Tamar Bridge as it reopens 2 weeks ahead of schedule after work led to months of traffic congestion.
The project in the village of Coulsand creates more homes for locals and stop them becoming holiday lets.
And a very different look and feel to last week's, where there's something much more autumnal. All those details coming up at the end of the programme.
Good evening. Police forces across the southwest are reviewing security for our politicians. MPs have spent the day in Westminster paying tribute to the Conservative MP Sir David Amess, who was stabbed to death during his constituency surgery in Essex on Friday.
Tonight, a service is taking place at Westminster Abbey in memory of Sir David. Well, our political correspondent David Wood is in Westminster for us this evening. David, a difficult day for MPs.
Very much so, Ellie. There is a very sombre mood here in Westminster because this feels so personal to so many MPs. Many of them were Sir David Amess's friends, but they all have to meet constituents when out and about in their constituency. So today they are paying tribute to Sir David, but also many very privately worried about their own personal safety. This is a simple but daily parliamentary procession, often hidden away. Today, though, it's on show to prove our democracy hasn't been knocked off step.
Honouring Sir David Amess.
MPs paused to remember one of their own. The killing of Sir David Amess has forced many MPs to worry about their safety.
The issues raised by the circumstances of Sir David's death will be looked at urgently and with the utmost priority.
Sir David's friends in the West Country say he wouldn't want his death to mean MPs are kept away from constituents.
But he wouldn't want colleagues to be worried, and he wouldn't want other horrible things to happen to parliamentary colleagues. I think he would want us to find a wise middle course, and I'm sure it's there for us. Doing surgeries has got to be done, I think, slightly differently, with a little bit more thought about personal security, but we must not pull up the drawbridge, and pull up the drawbridge we will not.
In Parliament, MPs are protected by layers of security, but when they step away from here and return to the southwest, that disappears.
We've had far too many of these attacks in recent years, and we are going to have to do something about it. We cannot carry on thinking that the life of an MP is a price worth paying to continue practising democracy in the way we do it.
How safe do you feel as an MP?
Well, I feel pretty safe, not wholly safe all the time, and I'm always tend to be conscious about what's going on around me.
And MPs elected more recently say they understand the risks, but that they can never be removed.
If you recognise that there will always be concerns about your safety and you'll have to look after yourself, I think the toxic environment that has been created in the past few years, I think is completely unsustainable.
I've always taken my own security quite seriously, and I'm reassured by my local police there are no threats that I need to be concerned about, and I very much hope I can carry on doing the job I've been doing in the manner I've been doing it.
Tomorrow, normal politics will return here. Today, this is a parliament in mourning, but a parliament determined to show democracy won't be defeated. And in the past few days, all of our MPs have been contacted by local police officers to check in on their security requirements and to try and understand more about how MPs move around their southwest constituencies to work out if they do need extra police protection. But there are no MPs that want to step away from constituents. They still want to see voters face to face to understand their needs and represent them when they come to Westminster and take part in parliamentary votes. But there is this growing worry that more needs to be done to keep them safe as they do their jobs.
OK, David Wood in Westminster, thank you. And there will be more on the death of Sir David Amess on the national news after us. Here's Charlene Whites with the details.
Coming up, tributes to the MP stabbed at his constituency surgery. Sir David Amess's family visited the church where he was killed, while MPs and Parliament fell silent before sharing emotional memories. Also ahead, England ordered to play a game behind closed doors after violence at the Euros final. And how the Netflix and chill generation are picking names for their kids. Join us for those stories and more from 6:30.
But here, a teenager has been charged following a stabbing on Torquay Harbour side. Armed police were called to the incident on Beacon Quay on Thursday night, which left 2 people injured. 19-year-old DJ Wilson from Torquay has been charged with wounding with intent and possession of a blade. 15-year-old girl arrested is on bail, while a 16-year-old boy has been released without charge.
6 men have appeared at Plymouth Crown Court accused of smuggling more than 2 tonnes of cocaine. 5 pleaded not guilty, while 1 didn't enter a plea. They were remanded in custody with a trial date set for March the 9th. Almost 2.5 tonnes of cocaine, estimated to have a street value of around £160 million, was found on board a luxury yacht off the coast of Plymouth last month.
Major disruption to bus services in Devon has been avoided after strike action was called off. Workers at depots in Exeter, Barnstaple, Matford, Newton Abbot and Torquay were due to go on strike today as part of a national campaign to improve pay. But Stagecoach South West says that after constructive discussions with the RMT union, normal services are operating.
Exeter's recycling rate has been called appalling as it ranked bottom of all councils in Devon again. Just 27.8% of waste was recycled in the city, which is less than half the figure of neighbouring East Devon. Now, next tonight, all lanes on the Tamar Bridge are open to traffic again after resurfacing works came to an end 2 weeks ahead of schedule.
Heavy traffic has been building up around the crossing for the past few months while the work's been carried out. Claire Manning is there for us this evening. And Claire, if you use that regularly, you're going to be relieved that that work is finished, aren't you?
Yeah, there is massive relief here. I mean, let's face it though, this is a pretty miserable place to be stood this evening. You can't even actually see the Tamar Bridge through the mizzle there, but I promise you it is there. But this is a good day for the thousands of people who use this bridge to commute between Cornwall and Devon every day. For around 5 months now, there's been disruption here while resurfacing work's taken place. But take a look for yourself. All 4 lanes of the road are open this evening, and we've not seen that now since the beginning of June. Now, this bridge, around 16 million vehicles use it every year, and every 20 to 25 years it needs resurfacing. And while it is to be lauded that the work's finished 2 weeks ahead of schedule, for many local businesses it couldn't have come soon enough, particularly businesses in Saltash who've been heavily impacted by the disruption caused here. But it's vital work that Tamar Crossings have carried out, funded by the tolls that we all pay when we use this bridge, and of course by opening 2 weeks early. It's open in time for half term and in time for the 60th anniversary of this bridge next week.
Claire Manning, thank you very much.
Now, many of us are trying to live more sustainably and cut down on single-use plastics, opting instead for reusable coffee cups and carrier bags, for example. But would you be prepared to do the same with nappies?
A growing number of parents say they want to be greener, and the government says they're currently looking into the environmental impact of both reusable and disposable nappies. We've been speaking to one family from Tavistock who've already made the switch. Here's Lauren Hall.
Lucy Nash has 3 children, and she says her youngest is already doing her bit for the environment. The family from Tavistock have started using different nappies, making the switch from disposables to reusables.
We've pretty much always been sort of eco-friendly, and then when she came along, we were in disposables, and we found that she'll quite often get rashes, and looking at cloth nappies has always been on my list to try, but it's just that push out there because it's quite a big leap to change from, you know, something that can easily be thrown away to reusables.
There's a growing number of parents choosing reusable nappies.
They're sealed with Velcro. One size fits most babies.
This company makes cloth nappies, and it's seen a huge rise in demand over the past few years.
We were listed last year in the 100 fastest growing companies in the UK, and you can see that throughout the industry. And I think for parents who walk down the aisles of supermarkets and pharmacies and look online, the availability of reusable nappies has never been greater, and that's because the demand is there.
That said, there's still plenty of demand for disposables. Here in the UK, around 3 billion disposable nappies end up in landfill each year. That's around 2 to 3% of all household waste. The body representing the disposable nappy industry says they are making improvements and that the alternatives still have an impact on the environment.
It's important to remember that both types of nappy carry an impact. Cloth nappies consume water and energy and detergent. Disposable nappies create waste. Over the last few decades, disposable nappy manufacturers have reduced the size of nappies, which means there's less waste, there's less raw materials, there's less plastics, transport and energy. And I think this, combined with the fact that they are so easy to use, they work so well, they are the preferred choice of around 95% of parents.
It's certainly the nappy of choice for most families. We spoke to some of the parents at this playgroup to find out why.
I feel guilty about using them, yet it is my convenience that I use them.
I actually get biodegradable disposable nappies, and I use cloth nappies as well.
Environmental issues are very important, increasingly so now. But I would say the difficulty as a parent is finding the time to do all that additional cleaning.
Disposable nappies are convenient, and yeah, I wouldn't have any other way. No, sorry.
Research is now underway to assess the environmental impact of both reusable and disposable nappies. The results are due to be published later this year. And for some parents, it may mean a change of nappy at nappy changing time. Lauren Hall, ITV News.
That's such a talking point for parents, isn't it? We were just discussing what we would do. And I think if I had a baby again, I probably would go for reusables.
Yeah, as the guest was saying, it is tricky though, with time and convenience.
Yeah,
but it's
a really difficult
worth
one.
making the switch if you can, I think. Now, research has found that 1 in 5 parents think their child's behaviour is worse now than before the pandemic, with parents more likely to say their child was now excessively gaming and refusing to do their homework.
In the UK, there are currently no online gaming regulations, but could we soon follow in the footsteps of China, who've limited playing online for under 18s to just 1 hour on Fridays, weekends and holidays in an attempt to combat gaming addiction and to spend more time on studies? Ranvik Nandra explores.
Press a few buttons and in a matter of seconds, you're playing against someone from across the world. But in China, they think children are online for too long and are restricting them to an hour on Fridays, weekends and holidays.
There are some broadly shared concerns about the future of the young, the high stresses imposed on them by the education service, but also younger people might easily get addicted to online games.
Mental health charity Place to Be has found 20% of parents are likely to say their child is gaming more than before the pandemic. These students at Montgomery Primary School in Exeter are learning how to be safe online and how much is too much screen time.
I reckon I'm on quite a lot, but it's not all playing like games. Some of it's playing like homework, TT Rockstars, or going on Seesaw, like a learning app.
Sometimes we get restricted to like only weekends sometimes when it gets too much or something.
Some people don't actually use it a lot, and when they do use it, it's for educational purposes.
The UK government hasn't officially commented on China's new regulations, but they're unlikely to impose similar restrictions here. And there are things parents can do to work with children.
I think it's really important that they spend time getting, understanding, the games that their children play, and ideally getting involved and, and playing together. So this can give them a really good insight into the games the children are playing and what the children are getting from those games. And also, as they play together, they can help them watch out for risks and teach them how to stay, safe online.
These young adults definitely want to avoid any gaming regulations. They play at this centre, which gives young people with additional needs the training to start a career in online gaming.
My favourite thing about it is just you get to play with so many different people that play video games from across the world.
It's the best way to make friends half the time when you can't exactly meet up with them in person.
I think people should be allowed the freedom to be expressive and play how they want.
Just to get away from that societal demand that's actually on them. And they're creating and connecting into communities and peer groups, which is massively important in any social development. So if we're going to remove that level of social development, I'd say that wouldn't be healthy. But we have to open up the dialogue and find out what's positive, what's negative, and then of course strike the balance.
Being online creates a unique community. Experts want parents and children to ultimately work together in order to be safe online. Ravneet Nandra, ITV News.
You're watching ITV here in the West Country. There's still plenty more ahead on the programme before 6:30, including how people in Exeter are coming together to pay tribute to the NHS heroes who've been on the front line during the pandemic.
Charlie's going to have the forecast. Charlie, we saw Claire at the Tamar Bridge with a fair bit of mizzle there.
Yeah, that's right. Similar temperatures last week, but by no means the same weather as last week. But in a few days' time, it could look very different indeed. Find out more in about 10 minutes' time.
First, though, 3 Cornish cottages that were in danger of being sold off as holiday homes have been saved by a local community for its own young people.
And it's just the start of a bigger project in Corsand in Cornwall, where more than 50% of homes there are second homes, to make sure that local people can stay in their own village. Jackie Bird's been finding out more.
It's somehow rather fitting that in this old coastguard cottage overlooking Corsand Bay, which has had new life breathed into it by the Peninsula Trust, newborn Elijah Voisey has his bedroom. His mum and dad, Levi and Rosie, are amongst the first tenants of 3 cottages bought from Cornwall Council by the Peninsula Trust to save them from being snapped up as holiday homes. Levi's family have lived in the area for generations, but without this unusual form of social housing, he simply would not have been able to have afforded to stay living here.
It's amazing. He's got his own room. That was kind of why we were looking for a 2-bed, just because we needed the bedroom for him.
But financially, it's very stable because it's social housing, so we know we're going to be looked after. So
yeah. We're really lucky because it's not much more than the 1-bed flat, is it? So it's really good.
After the Peninsula Trust bought these properties, they asked local people to apply to rent them. More than 40 people did, all local people who were finding it impossible to find suitable housing in a place where 50% of the year a similar percentage of the homes in this village stand empty. One of them was Chloe Taylor, who was renting a tiny flat that she had to move out of for the whole of August to allow it to be used as a holiday let.
So I'm really, really grateful we've got this place and have been able to stay. My partner's a fisherman with the local fishermen here in Corsand as well. He's one of the last fishermen down here. And without having him on the boat, he'd probably have to stop doing what he does as well, because he's getting on and it's hard work for an old boy, isn't it? So yeah, we're incredibly grateful we've got this place.
This has been a year like no other for obvious reasons, but usually in the summer months there'd be about 3,500 people living here in Kingsand and Corsand, and in the winter months just 900, and that's why the Peninsula Trust is trying to breathe life into the heart of this community. Its latest project is this building. Once the ship in before it was devastated by fire, the Trust is rebuilding it from the ground up, with a community cafe just reopening after COVID.
You walk through somewhere like a village like this in the winter and at least half the properties are empty because they are second homes. And it's inevitable, isn't it, really? Somewhere lovely like this, people want to come. We're lucky to live here all the time, but it means young people are forced out of the village. They have to leave to find work, they have to leave to find somewhere to live. And then the villages die because the local businesses aren't supported, the cafes close, the shop struggles to open. So it's very much a rolling process, isn't it? If there's no housing, everything else follows.
And the next plan is to turn the upstairs space into 4 more flats for, you've guessed it, local people, keeping the soul in this village so that locals like little Elijah can plan their future here. Jackie Bird, ITV News, Cawsand.
Good idea. Very cute baby as well. Now, special service was held at Exeter Cathedral over the weekend to honour NHS and care workers who have worked through the pandemic.
The service was to thank them for their selfless determination during the past 20 months. Richard Lawrence was there.
A powerful, heartfelt service to say thank you.
You have worked with great love, and you are an inspiration to us all.
In this iconic building, the Bishop of Exeter described the care and health workers in their PPE as the iconic images of the past year.
We were a nation that was paralysed by fear, and yet these people went out. They didn't often have the right equipment, and they risked themselves, and many of our NHS staff died, and some ended up with long COVID. We need to honour that memory, and the examples of grace and self-sacrifice and just caring for people are legion.
Only representatives from sectors of the care and health services across Devon were invited due to COVID considerations. During a time to reflect, they were invited to bring pertinent items to the altar table, from baby scales to a ward clerk's constantly sanitised pen to a set of scrubs from the Nightingale Hospital. The NHS staff and care workers were grateful for the service.
We've been able to give support to others in times of need. Whenever the need comes or the need arises, we're always there to support others, and that is the joy that we have.
It's a really wonderful celebration of how maternity's had to continue throughout the pandemic, and as always we come to work every day for our mums and our babies, and that's the most important thing.
Nothing's changed, you know, babies are still being born, we still have to be there for every single woman and their families.
It brings up some good and bad memories, but again with the people there doing this service, and the music is really calming and making me feel like, wow, being part of the NHS, and I'm proud of it.
The church in Devon has been taking its advice from one of its vicars, Professor Gina Radford, who was England's Deputy Chief Medical Officer until 2019.
We're not out of the woods yet. We've still got rising cases. We're facing a challenging winter. So now it's right to stop, to say thank you, and to have a period of reflection for all those who work in our NHS and social care.
The cathedral is old enough to have experienced a previous pandemic. The plague of the 14th century wiped out teams involved in its construction. But now the church is looking ahead, hoping to welcome back full congregations here in time. Richard Lawrence, ITV News.
OK, it is time for a look back at the weekend's sport now, with details of the FA Cup first round draw and the goals that get Plymouth Argyle top of League One.
For the love of the game. eBay sponsors ITV Regional Sports Reports.
Yeah, our sports reporter Sam Mangat has joined us in the studio. Sam, will turn to football news in just a moment, but first, an impressive win for Exeter Chiefs this weekend.
That's right, Ellie, certainly. I mean, Chiefs had an unusually slow start to this season, but now they're definitely up and running, and up to 4th place in the table too. Rob Baxter's side, they trailed Wasps at half-time, but a brilliant second-half performance earned them a 3rd win in a row. Let's have a look.
A trip to Coventry to take on Wasps provided a stern test of Exeter's resurgence. But with their Lion stars in the team, it was a challenge they were ready to face. Henry Slade's try earned them an early advantage. Next, it was the turn of one of Chiefs' more unheralded players to shine, as Argentinian winger Facundo Cordero showed the Wasps defenders a clean pair of heels and raced clear. Inevitably, Wasps hit back and scored 2 tries of their own, but Chiefs were able to turn to Lions tourist and try machine Sam Simmons to reduce the deficit with just 20 minutes left. And as Exeter then launched wave after wave of attacks, they broke through again with another Lion, 2nd row Johnny Hill, clinically finishing in the corner for a 4th bonus point clinching try. At the final whistle, it was clear just how much this landmark victory meant to this Chiefs side, who are already focused on reaching another Premiership final.
Yeah, looking pretty ominous again, aren't they, Sam? Let's turn to football. First round of the FA Cup draw's been made.
Yes, Jonty, it was made here yesterday on ITV, and it's thrown up some potentially tough games for our teams. Here they are. If Torquay can win their replay tomorrow night, they'll travel to Charlton, while Exeter City, they're away at Bradford. Yeovil or Weymouth, they drew on the weekend. They'll also be on the road once their replay is settled tomorrow. And Plymouth Argyle, they travel to Sheffield Wednesday, which is probably one of the hardest tests they could have been given. But let's be honest, if any team in League One is equipped to go to Hillsborough and win in the FA Cup, probably has to be Argyle. They remain top of the table after winning at Oxford, and did it the hard way too after falling behind in the first half. It just shows Argyle's resilience under Ryan Lowe that they hit back to win 3-1, with Paniche Camara scoring twice. Exeter City, they remain the draw specialists in League 2. The Grecians have drawn 8 of their 12 games. The latest came against Newport County at St James Park on the weekend. City, they were behind twice but claimed a point thanks to goals from Matt Jay and Sam Numbe. And that's sport.
Nice stuff, Sam, thank you.
Right, it is weather time now. Charlie is at the Met Office for us this evening. Charlie, there's been a real change in the weather over the weekend, hasn't there? The rain and the drizzle are back. What's going on?
It is all over the place right now. You're absolutely right. At the moment, low pressure is very much in charge. Of course, last week was all high pressure, but it's still really quite warm. It takes a bit to kind of get your head around. We'll get onto that in a second, but this is how things look from above. We've got some shots earlier from our cameras in Dartmouth. Let's take a look at those now, because this kind of paints the scene quite well. One of the prettiest towns across Devon's south coast. Not that you could see much of it today because of all that low cloud and mist and drizzle, but the temperatures were really quite high. It was a very difficult day to dress for because you just feel sweaty and uncomfortable all the time. But yeah, there's a very poor visibility around. It looks a little bit miserable. But it's not just the weather that you can see, it's also the winds that you can feel, because they're coming in from the south and southwest. It's a pretty warm direction most times of the year, but today we saw some pretty high temperatures, easily into the mid to high teens, a good 5 or 6 degrees above average. But if you think that is warm, then a little bit further south across France, well, we could be seeing temperatures almost getting into the high 20s. So yeah, that takes some beating. At the moment, the jet stream is sort of to the north of us. We're on the warm side, hence why we've got warm air. That's all been dragged up on those nice southerly winds. But by the end of the week, a big shift. The jet stream dives down towards the south, opens the door for some pretty low temperatures and pretty cold air coming all the way in from the Arctic. So it's not going to turn really frosty or anything, but the feel will be quite different. We're looking at temperatures perhaps a fraction below average by the time we get through to Friday. Here are the details.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV West Country weather.
So an unsettled rest of this week, some more cloudy, damp weather, much like today, really, with some heavy rain, but also something a little bit drier from time to time. Strong winds, though, and for the first few days, at least this week, stays pretty mild. Now here's today's weather system, rattled through earlier on, but there's another one waiting pretty close by and pushing through quite quickly with these tight isobars indicating some strong winds. But there are so many different fronts rotating around the same area of low pressure. It's quite difficult to keep track almost. So yeah, a very messy Atlantic right now. For the rest of this evening, though, it is pretty dry out there. Okay, there's a lot of low cloud and misty murkiness around, and the winds will pick up a little bit as we head through the early hours of Tuesday, bringing some more wet weather as that second weather system arrives. Really quite mild tonight as well. Temperatures only dropping about a degree or two from where they rose to earlier on today, lows of 15 or 16 Celsius. So yeah, wet first thing on Tuesday, but at least a lot of this heavier rain swings through pretty quickly, giving us a little window of something a bit drier, maybe even a bit brighter before the second front arrives as we head through the course of the afternoon. Some more heavy rain on that as well. Stronger winds than today and even higher temperatures, up to 18 Celsius across parts of North Devon, Somerset, parts of Dorset as well. High tide as we head through tomorrow. Portland there about 10 to 7 in the morning and just after 7 in the evening. Some pretty rough seas, I would have thought, as well. And then some more showers to rattle through on Wednesday and Thursday, similar sort of weather. Then we see that switch in wind direction. So by Friday, it looks like it's relatively quiet, but it will feel quite a bit colder, I think, for most of us. Now, before a lot of that rain arrived, had some people paragliding over Putsborough, getting in all those views. I only just realised there were 2 of them up there. What a view indeed.
Great Western Railway sponsors the ITV West Country weather.
Charlie, thank you very much indeed. Right, before we go, a reminder that as always you can find more stories from across the region online, including the new cabins that will be used as emergency housing in Cornwall. The site in New County Hall in Truro will house people in urgent need of somewhere to stay, as well as providing medium-term accommodation.
Well, understandably, there's been plenty of praise for the project so far. Laura Chambers has got in touch just to say good idea when you're struggling with housing, and that's one way to solve it.
And Sarah Jeffrey adds they need to do this everywhere. Well, for more on the day's news stories, you can head to our website using the details on screen.
Hey there, that's it from all of us. I'm back with the late news at 10:30.
Bye-bye for now.